What's good, family? We're back with another video. Today we're gonna be reacting to Why Capitalism Fails. This is Richard Wolff and Lex Fridman. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I don't know any other economic system that has been more effective than capitalism. And before this gets going, I know all about the whole rising tide lifts all boats. You know what I'm saying? So I think capitalism has been that rising tide that's lifted all boats. And I don't know how socialism would work economically, but maybe Richard Wolff may answer that question for me. So subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and smash that like button. Let's get it going, man. I've been consistent with these videos, man. Push this video out as far as you can. Love y'all, man. And like, I even love y'all in the last video. Like I said, I'm gonna go live one day and have the debate with y'all about Thomas Sowell. Cause I don't know. I think intellectually, I don't know. But all intellectuals think they smarter than other intellectuals. So anyways, subscribe. And let's just, you know. Okay. Let's just hop right into the video. Let's go.
What about sort of the lifting tides raise all boats? Meaning, if we look at the 20th century, right, a lot of people, maybe you disagree with this, but they attribute a lot of the innovation and the average improvement in the quality of life to capitalism, right, to inventions and innovation, to engineering and science developments that resulted from competition and all those kinds of forces. So not looking at the individual unfairness of exploitation as it's specifically defined, but just observing historically. Looking at the 20th century, we came up with a lot of cool stuff that seemed to have made life easier and better on average. What do you say to that?
I have several responses to that, but I do disagree.
Okay, so he disagrees. I think what Lex said. Why I keep going out of focus? Hold on, wait. All right, here we go. There we go. All right, so he do disagree. Oh wait, I see the problem. Hold on, wait. There we go. All right, so shouldn't go out of focus no more. But he do disagree. I don't even know what the hell I was gonna say because it was going out of focus. But like, let's just keep going. Let's go on. He said he disagrees. Rising tide lifts all boats. Capitalism has been one of the most effective economic systems that has definitely moved governments, nations for a while, right? And basically, Richard Wolff disagrees. See why?
Pretty fundamentally with what's going on there. But let me give you the arguments so that you can hear them and then you can evaluate them, as can anybody who's listening or watching. Marx was a student of Hegel, and one of Hegel's central arguments was that everything that exists, quote, in the contradiction. In simple English, there's a good and bad side, if you like, to everything. And you won't understand it unless you accept that proposition and start looking for the good things that are the other side of the bad ones, and the bad things that are the other side of the good ones, etc. So
the dialectic.
Yes, exactly. And Marx, very attentive to that, explicitly agrees with this on many occasions, and applies it, of course, to the central object of his research, capitalism. So this is not a simple-minded fellow who's telling you all the bad things about capitalism as if there were nothing that this system achieved or accomplished. And one of the things he celebrates a lot is the technological dynamism of the system, which Marx takes to be profound because, you know, he lived at the time when major breakthroughs in textile technology and mining, chemistry, and so on were achieved. But as to the notion that capitalism is therefore responsible for the improvement in the quality or the standard of living of the mass of people, Marx now comes back and says, oh, wait a minute here.
Before he goes any further, Capitalism was responsible for that, though. The thing that I don't like when they debate capitalism is they always add in the exploitation factor when it comes to capitalism. And I guarantee you that's where it's going to go. It's going to go to exploitation. It's probably going to go to slavery. It's going to go to all these different places. And again, if a system of government or a system of something is created, or an ideology is pushed into society and the ideology is met negatively, I'll give you a good example. Friedrich Nietzsche's ideology was something that he put out there, and it was inspired by the Black Panthers and it was inspired by the Nazis, a positive group and a negative group. So I mean, I'm just waiting to see what he's gonna say. I don't want to be too much. I'm probably nervous. He might say some good shit. Let's go.
Number one, capitalism as a system has been mostly represented by capitalists, which makes a certain sense. And those capitalists, with very few exceptions, some, but very few, have fought against every effort to improve the lives of the mass of people. The goal of a capitalist is to minimize labor costs. What that means is replace a worker with a machine, move the production from expensive U.S. to cheap China, bring in desperate immigrants from other parts of the world because they will work for less money than the folks that you have here at home. Every measure to help the standard of living of American workers had to be fought for decades over the opposition of capitalists from the beginning to right now. The reason we have a minimum wage, which was passed middle of the 1930s, when it was proposed, it was blocked by capitalists. They got the...
It's true. Minimum wage was blocked by capitalists. I definitely do remember that. And, yeah, that's interesting. Let's keep going.
Together, they don't want... And today, just a factoid for you. The last time the minimum wage was raised in the United States, federal minimum wage, was in 2009, when it was set at the lofty sum of $7.25 an hour, which you cannot live on. Over the last 12 years or so, whatever it is now, 11, 12, 13 years, since then, we have had an increase in the price level in this country every year. And in the last year, 8.5%. During that time that the prices went up, the minimum wage was never raised. What?
Well, in defense of the capitalists, and maybe he may respond to this, but in defense of capitalists, they believe that if you completely wipe out a minimum wage, right? That if you wipe out a minimum wage, that you can give an employee whatever wage you can afford based on whatever your company is bringing in. So let's say you own a McDonald's, right? And McDonald's generates income, and this is what I've heard about owning a McDonald's. The highest salary that a person who owns the McDonald's will make, first of all, they have to work at the McDonald's, will be between $90,000 to $100,000 a year. That's the highest salary that the person owning the building can make, right? And then below that is what you pay your workers based on whatever you bring in. But let's say you own a trucking company. Let's say you own like a Penske or something like that, right? A Penske shop can generate up to $500,000 to $1 million a year. So you can pay your employees a lot more working there, right? You pay your employees based on what you're bringing in. And a lot of capitalists believe that setting a minimum wage actually minuses businesses out that can't afford to pay the minimum wage for certain people. Now, I know the argument back would be, well, companies like Walmart could definitely pay the minimum wage. And that's for sure. But a person who buys into the franchise of McDonald's, right? Or buys a Starbucks, buys a 7-Eleven, no, maybe not a 7-Eleven, but buys into a Starbucks, buys into any of the fast food joints, any of the fast food industry, right? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make enough to pay your employees $25 an hour. You're just not going to make enough, right? Unless you're in good location and all these other factors that play a role into it. So when people try to talk about the minimum wage, the other side of the argument is not a bad side of the argument if people are willing to listen to it. But let's keep going.
This is a time of stock market boom, of growing inequality. This is a society, the nerve of the defender of capitalists, who wants now to get credit for the improvement in the standard of life of the workers that was fought by every generation. It takes your breath away. It's an argument. Whoa! But I take my hat off if I had one, because that is one of the only ways to justify this system. Long ago, let me get at the heart of it. Long ago, capitalism could have overcome hunger, could have overcome disease, could have, way beyond what we have now. But it didn't. And that's the worst moral condemnation imaginable. How do you justify that when you could, you didn't? Look, let me get at it another way, because this may interest you anyway. The issue is not that capitalism isn't technologically dynamic. It is. And along the way, it has developed things that have helped people's lives get better. No question.
For sure.
But the notion that the mass enjoyment of a rising standard of living is somehow built into capitalism is factually nuts and is such an outrageous, and I can give you because you do math, you understand it.
Hold on. I totally disagree with that. I think that every civilization that has added capitalism into their civilization has evolved expeditiously. I like using expeditiously. But think about it. China added an element of capitalism into it when it was a socialist nation. Added an element of capitalism into it. It became damn near like it became one of the top nations in the world right now. South Korea added an element of capitalism in it and became one of the and rose its population through that element of capitalism. Every area that capitalism has been implemented, it has driven the economies of these places up, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not flawed. None of that, all that. I know the arguments people are going to make, but capitalism itself can take credit for a lot of elevation. I don't know. Let's see what else. Let's see what he says about. Because I'm curious, what would be the solution to capitalism? And maybe he may get there, right? But he's going to talk about why it fails. But what is going to be the thing that helps? All right, whatever. Let's see.
Think of it this way. Imagine a production process in which you have $100 that the capitalist has to lay out for tools, equipment, and raw materials,
Yeah.
and $100 that he.
I don't mean to interrupt him, but it's my channel. I interrupt when I want to. But that's the thing that I think a lot of people on the socialist side don't think about: the budget. A budget exists. It exists, and you have to move according to whatever kind of budget you got, no matter whatever business you got. And in some industries, you can pay a lot more based on how much profit is being brought in. In other industries, you can't. I feel like there's a critique on that I think isn't a fair critique on capitalism. That I think would be in any economic system would be something that would be that they have to lean into. But let's keep going.
He has to lay out for workers, hire the workers, and he puts them all together, and he has an output. And let's say the output is 100 units of something, and whatever the price is, and that's his revenue. And when he takes his product and sells it and gets the revenue, let's say the revenue is, it doesn't really matter, it's 120, for lack of a better word, and he 220, sorry. And he takes 100 of it and replaces the tools, equipment, and raw materials he used up, another 100 to hire the workers for the next shift, and the other 20 is his profit, and he puts that aside. Now along comes a technological breakthrough. A new machine. And the new machine is so effective, you can get the same number of units of output with half the workers. So you don't need to spend 100 on workers. You only need to spend 50. You can do it with half the workers. And so the capitalist goes to the workers. By the way, this happens every day. And he says to half of them, "You're fired. Don't come back Monday morning. I don't need you." It's nothing personal. It's just, I got a machine. Why does he do that? Because the 50 he now no longer has to spend on labor, because he doesn't need half of them. He keeps. Everything else is the same. The machine, everything else is this, just to make the math easy. So he keeps as his own profit the 50 that before he paid for those workers.
Yeah.
Right? Because when he sells it for $220, that 50 he doesn't have to give to the next job because he has no machine. So that's what he does. The technology leads. He's happy. He's become more profitable. He's got an extra 50, which is why he buys the machine. The workers are screwed. Half of them just lost their job, have to go home to their husband and wife, tell them I don't have a job anymore, I didn't do anything wrong. The guy was nice enough to say there was nothing wrong with me, but he doesn't need it. So I'm completely screwed here. I don't know what I'm going to do about the debts we have, the house on mortgage, my children's education, or whatever else he's got going for himself. All right, now the point. There was, of course, an alternative path.
Okay, let's hear
The
this.
alternative path would have been to keep all the workers, pay them exactly the same that you did before for half a day's work. You would have got the same output, same revenue, same profit as before. But the gain of the technology would have been a half a day of freedom every day of the lives of these workers. The majority of workers would have been really helped by this technology. But instead they were screwed so that one guy, the employer, could make a big bundle of more money. You want to support a system like this?
Well,
Interesting enough, though, that is an interesting point, though. Like that technically, anytime that a new technology is rolled out, like for example, I'll give you a really good example. There's a guy, Andrew Yang, I was listening to. I read his book, and he was talking about how Silicon Valley is developing these automated trucks, right? And about I think it was like maybe 60 to 70, somewhere around there, like 60 to 70% of the trucking industry is most of our workers. 60 to 70% is most of our workers, something like that. Like don't quote me on the numbers. I'm just paraphrasing the numbers. But however, though, if that technology was rolled out and they laid off an extensive amount of trucking work, a fixed amount of truckers, you would probably have a global economic downturn that would probably be pretty bad for the economy, and pretty bad for like people's reaction to not being able to find a job. And yeah, so one thing you could do if they had that type of technology is keep the trucker, just keep him in the truck, pay him the exact same. No, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think what he just offered was a bad idea. But let me see what Lex got to say, because Lex is good at counteracting this kind of stuff.
to go back to Hegel,
Yes.
the good and the bad.
Yes.
So you just listed the bad, and you also first listed the good, the technological innovation of this kind of system. The question is the alternative. Whatever, as we try to sneak up to ideas of what the alternative might look like, right? What are the good and the bad of the alternative? So you just kind of, as a opposite, by contrast, showed that, well, a nice alternative is you work less, get paid the same, you have more leisure time,
Right.
Opportunity to pursue other
Interests.
creative interests, family,
Right.
flourish as a human being, basically strengthen and embolden the basic humanity that's
Right.
under all us. Yes, but then what cost does that have on the deadline-fueled, competition-fueled machine of technological innovation that is the positive side of capitalism?
Slows it down.
It slows it down, and the question is, which is more important for the flourishing of humanity?
I agree with that. And I'd love there to be a democratic mechanism. So let's discuss it, let's debate it, and then let's decide what mixture, because it's not either or. The mathic problem I gave you is either or. We could mix it. You could have a third less of a working day instead of a half less, and then the other part would be extra profit for our employer, etc., etc. So let's have a democratic discussion of what is the mix between the positive and we have no such thing. Yeah. All of this is decided by one side in this debate, which not only we know what they do, they always choose the one that maximizes their profit because that's what they were told to do in business school, where I've taught. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what you're told to do in business school. You're told to maximize maximize your profit, and it's actually interesting because he's right. Let me keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt. I really don't have anything to say to what they're saying. I like the conversation and how it's going. It's going pretty good.
Not only is it an undemocratic decision, but it's lopsided to boot. So we don't have the opportunity. But I would love for us to be good Hegelian Marxists and say, let's take a look at the plus and the minus and make the best decision that we can. We'll make mistakes, but we'll all make them together. It won't be one of us making a dictatorial decision. You know, Marx developed the notion of the dictatorship of the proletariat, not as a notion of how government not Marx, Lenin did that. Not as a notion of how a government works, but as a notion of what the practical reality is. The dictatorship in these key decisions is not made by some sitting council. It's made by each little capitalist in her relationships with the workers in the workplace, which is why Marx focused his analysis on that point. And by the way, I can sketch for you right now so it doesn't lurk in the background what the alternative is.
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay. It goes right.
Before he goes to the alternative, definitely, I get what he's saying. Like that is a problem amongst capitalists. However, though, if you completely eliminated the system, right, or kept the system the way it is, there's still competition in the system, which means that workers can still go find jobs in other places with the amount of competition that's in the system, right? So the amount of companies that are competing, if there is an AI that automates people out of existence, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be more jobs within the process of that AI coming into the economy that's going to help build the economy even further, right? And I understand the displacement, you know, but I definitely still don't understand how socialism can be effective. And maybe he's about to explain it now. So let's keep going and let's see how socialism can be effective. How can it outdo capitalism? I personally think capitalism is a flawed system, but definitely something, but it's still an effective system. So it's flawed, but it's effective. So let's go.
Right back to what I said earlier. The workers themselves, the collection of employees together appropriate their own surplus and decide democratically what to do with it, which includes the decision of whether or not to buy a machine and whether or not to use the machine and the savings it might allow to be handled by more leisure for themselves or as a fund for new developments in technology or new products or whatever they want. And you know, this is an old idea in human. Marx loved that. Toward the end of his life, he started reading extensively in anthropology. And one of the reasons he did that toward the end of his life was because he kept discovering that in this society and that, including here in the United States, that there were examples of people who organized their production in precisely this way, as a collective, democratic community in which everybody had an equal voice. So we all together decide democratically what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, and what to do with the output we all help to produce. So let's do it in this country where democracy is a value nearly everybody subscribes to. Think about it this way. The stunning contradiction that there is a place in our society where democracy has never been allowed to enter. The workplace. In the workplace, a tiny group of people, unaccountable to the rest of us, the employer, whether that's an individual, a family, a partnership, or a corporate board of directors, tiny group of people controls economically a vast mass of employees. Those employees don't elect those people, have nothing. There is no accountability. It is the most undemocratic arrangement imaginable. And this society insists on calling itself democratic when it has organized the minor matter of producing everything in a way that is it's autocratic.
So his solution is that we democratize the workplace and allow everybody to have a say so in what is going on. I don't see anything wrong with that. Definitely a board of directors is what makes the decision for every company. A board of directors, the CEO, I'm not going to go down the list, but they organize everything that's happening within the company. And what he thinks is that the workers at the bottom should have more of a say so in it. I don't know if you guys remember the strike that was about to happen. The strike that was about to happen for the docks, the dock workers. And I ended up figuring out one of the reasons why the strike was going to happen was because they were trying to automate their jobs out of existence. And a lot of those workers didn't want their jobs automated out of existence, right? So they wanted that put in the contract. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything fully wrong with that. I don't know how we would be able to democratize, because I think one of the biggest problems with our government in America, and why nothing seems to sometimes get done, is because we're so democratized. Not saying we want to. I'm not saying we want a dictatorship, but I think it would lead to less ineffectiveness when it came to getting things done. When it comes to goods and services and things like that, I think that would. I don't know how effective that would be. Anyways, subscribe, y'all. Turn on post notifications. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think Richard Wolff has a point? Do you disagree with Richard Wolff? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. All right, peace.